Let's open with a word of prayer. Holy God, we thank you that we have the privilege of fellowshipping with you today. I ask that you would be with us, guide us, and bless us. And help us to have a clearer understanding of your will. And of our duty and our obligations. In Jesus' name, amen. For the translators, if you can either tell myself or Curtis if we're going too fast or if there are any issues. Okay. I guess you're not going to translate that. Okay. So, we all know that there are these 5 speakers who have presented their views on the Sunday law subject. On the surface, their messages are quite similar. But when you start looking in detail, you see that there are, I guess for them at least, some important differences. In Slovakia, I got asked several questions. And one of them was, how is just a rank and file member, just a normal member, able to work out who's right and who's wrong? If I'm not just going to come out and tell people who's teaching truth and who's teaching error. Maybe I should say who's right and wrong. I don't want to use the word error. And seen as up to this date, I haven't done that. I haven't told people who's right and who's wrong. Many members are lost and frustrated. So the person that asked the question was Thomas, and I gave Thomas a suggestion. And what I suggested to him was that I don't know why, but all 5 speakers seem to be speaking about the Sunday law in connection with the 2024 election. So I said, seeing as that's a common theme for all of them, common theme being the US election, that would be a good starting point. So that's Slovakia. Recently in Canada, I asked the question, the same question in a similar but slightly different fashion. So in Slovakia, in the studies themselves, in the presentations, I approached, if I can put it this way, Thomas's question in a different way. Instead of focusing on the election, I went to Revelation 17. And we didn't do a verse by verse study of the subject. And if you've watched the presentations, hopefully you'll see why I didn't do that. Because what I suspect would happen is that if we did a verse by verse study, most people would just take my word for the explanation that I would give of what that verse meant. And that seems dangerous to me. And if you get someone else to give their explanation of the verse, I suspect chaos would ensue. So we did try that, and if you were there or if you watched the presentations, you know that was Curtis that said, let's try doing that. And you'll hopefully recall that it didn't work. What ended up happening was what was meant to be a proof or a defense ended up not being that at all. So we kind of, after exhausting that route, we stopped and reverted back to the way I was doing it before. So please speak, ask questions and comment and give comments. Especially if my retelling of history isn't correct, because I don't want to distort things. We can just take a break for a minute. Technical problem. Back in play. So Revelation 17, and what I looked at was the beast and the woman. So the feedback that I got after Slovakia was that this was all too much, too fast. So when I went to Canada last week, I planned to go over that study again in a slower fashion. But I think I failed in that mission. Each camp meeting has its own dynamic, and I began by asking a question. It's Canada. whether or not the subject of the Sunday law message was salvational or not. And because most people were either not willing to speak, or the ones that were speaking said it wasn't salvational, which I was surprised to hear. It took quite a while to get through that question. So if you remember, if you've watched those presentations, I went from asking whether the waymark itself whether this waymark was salvational. People were saying it wasn't. So then I went to option 2 and asked if this dispensation was salvational. Because I felt that looking at the Sunday law dispensation would bring us onto familiar ground. We went to 2 places to try to work that out. Does anybody remember those 2 places? First one? Quotes, yeah. Two inspired places. Yep. Unless it's, you can just shout them out for this one, but you'll need the mic. So we're Testimony of the Church, Volume 5, page 206, paragraph 1. The next one. I can't hear you. Zechariah 10:1. How do I change the settings on this? It will be on my phone. I've got noise cancelling. This one. Just hold it. Sorry about this. I can't hear the people speaking here very well. Okay, so we went to 2 places. That's better. Testimony to the Church, Volume 5, and Zechariah 10:1. And what's the subject of Zechariah 10? Now you will need the mic. Who's doing the mic? You doing the mic?
Latter rain.
So Zechariah is the subject of latter rain. And 5T? Someone else? No one over here? Charity?
I think it was
Put it close.
we're speaking about the Holy Spirit and Jesus and their mediation.
Find the quote. Have another go. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying someone else.
You don't want me to do it?
Someone else. I know you've got all the answers. You found it? Yeah.
Okay, that was a different quote.
Closer.
That was a different quote. So
5T.
we're talking about the preparation for the Sunday law.
Preparation of the Sunday law. So I'm going to call it the mark of the beast. Is that okay? So everybody okay that the 216 was mark of the beast and Zechariah's latter rain? Is that what you were going to say? Yes. Okay, so we looked at those and they were offered to show or demonstrate that the dispensation of the Sunday law was a salvational issue. Anybody want to comment or give their opinion? So we'll do a vote then. The Sunday law dispensation is it salvational that you know about that? Put your hands up because I won't hear otherwise. Microphone? Microphone. Microphone. Sure.
Okay.
Salvational or not? Yep. Salvational? Not salvational? Okay, so online, everybody here in the UK agrees that the dispensation of the Sunday law is salvational. And the only reason we went there, or I went there, was to use logic to say if the dispensation is salvational, then the beginning of the dispensation must be a salvational issue too. So does everybody think that the waymark that we call Sunday law that's marked on the board, that is a salvational issue too? So does anybody think it's not? Okay, so here, everybody, for people online, everybody says, I'm going to put a tick for yes to both of these questions. So I haven't had much feedback post-Canada about those two questions. So I don't know what would have happened if we had had that conversation, me and the UK members, before or after Canada. Has anybody changed their opinion based upon 5T and Zechariah, or did you always think these were salvational issues? Blessing?
Is it okay to comment?
Yes, yeah.
So my understanding has always been that the waymarks of our reform line
That's it.
are related to the fight between Jesus and Satan. So getting them correct will definitely determine our destiny. For that reason, it's been consistent before and after Canada.
Okay. Can someone tell me why they would think so many people can someone tell me why they would think that so many people at a camp meeting would suggest that the Sunday law waymark is not a salvational matter? What do you think is going through their mind when they're saying, surely it can't be? When I ask the question here, everybody says, of course. Natalie.
Can you hear me? Is that on? Doesn't sound like it's on. Yeah. I think it's because maybe the great test has changed. And it's something to do with now that it's equality. That we wouldn't have, let's say, message that was those that were wrong and some that were right. And therefore it wouldn't be a test due to equality.
Curtis.
Perhaps it would be in relation to the nature of what the Sunday law is about. In the sense that what we discuss is about external events, it's about politics. Whereas there's another aspect that I think people associate with salvation as righteousness by faith. Moral behavior. And so in people's mind, there might be a detachment between politics and moral behavior. So how would just knowing what happened on a certain day affect your salvation?
Is that just what Natalie said? Okay. Sorry. Did he just say what you said? Okay, so Natalie and, keep him up for a minute. Natalie and Curtis said the same thing. That the movement, individuals, seem to have gravitated away from external events as being salvational matters to a personal experience that we're required to have. Okay, so just want to ask Curtis one more question, because he's one of those 5 speakers. The reason why there's a disengagement in the thinking of a number of members is that in part due to something that you've done wrong and the other four speakers? So it's not specifically about you, it's about the five speakers. Are they teaching their message in the wrong way?
I don't believe so.
Then what went wrong? What's going wrong?
I think that if I can split out our experience as a movement into 3 dispensations,
Carry on.
I'm just going to call it Jeff, Elder Jeff era.
You're not translating? Portuguese, you're not there? She couldn't hear you.
Can you hear me now? The second as
I'll do the first. She didn't translate.
okay.
First.
The first dispensation as being under Elder Jeff. The second being under Elder Test. And today. I think the nature of how the message has been handled today is similar to Elder Jeff to a degree. Whereas the time period where Elder Tess was teaching, there was a lot of emphasis on day-to-day human behavior. And so during that time period, I think people's minds shifted away from how we used to teach the everlasting gospel as salvational. The everlasting gospel being prophecy.
Done?
Yeah.
So I'm going to call this external events. So this is about the teachers. So Curtis chose not to name people here in this dispensation. So we have external events, which is why it's so similar. And I'm just going to put personal experience. Is all that okay, Curtis? Or, yeah? Can you just give me these dates?
I'll put 2018.
So I assume everybody knows why, so I'm not going to ask him to explain.
And then I'll put 2024.
So I'm going to put Sunday Law, 2024. Is that okay? Okay, someone over here had their hands up earlier. Righteousness by faith. Who's going first? Go ahead. So my question was, I'll change something if it's wrong. My question was, why is there such a disconnect in the minds of members today that they come to think that our waymarks are not salvational now? Okay, so are you going to give a response to that? So tell me what I need to correct first.
I was just saying it would be
1 second.
clearer maybe if you say RBF or RB faith. That's all. It was a minor point.
I can't hear you. Where do I need to change?
Tess.
Where do I need to change it to?
RB faith or RBF.
RBF.
Yes. So so
So I was happy with radical faith. Obviously not. Righteous by faith. Go ahead.
So the thought that I have is there's a tension that exists between the rights, I'll say, of the institution and the rights of the individual.
Got to institution.
Okay, so I say it again.
No, I've got to the rights of the institution then.
And then the rights of the individual. So we've identified that tension when we analyze the United States as an example. Where we speak of the fight between, for example, states' rights and the federal government. And and in the movement, we have been developing a model that says when someone presents something, presenting their thoughts doesn't make them a tear. So we've discussed this in previous CAM meetings. So people are in an environment where they can be freer to share their thoughts and their ideas. Without necessarily jeopardizing their status in the movement. And I'm saying that is in tension with the purpose of this movement's existence. Because the movement was raised up as a vehicle for salvation, I'll say.
Good.
Yes.
So, sorry, I thought you finished.
Yes, so I was saying, so there's the tension of people can speak their minds.
I'll summarize
Okay.
in a second.
Yeah.
So, try and answer yes or no. If someone teaches error, is what they're teaching wrong? And if you teach error, will that error lead to a bad place?
It depends.
Will that error lead the movement to a bad place?
If adopted by the movement, yes.
Sorry?
If adopted by the movement,
Again?
yes.
I didn't get his answer. Yes. So error will lead the movement to a bad place.
If it's adopted by the movement. If it's adopted by the movement, then yes.
So yes. So error will make the movement lose its salvation.
Yes.
So that hasn't changed.
No.
What we have tried to move away from, which I think you said isn't actually new, you didn't, I don't think you said it this way, but which is now kind of being enforced or pushed upon us, or emphasized. That an individual who teaches error, the error that they teach does not affect their personal salvation.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so hope everybody got that. So unless we ask the question very specifically, when we say is a waymark salvation or not, and we have 5 people offering five different waymarks. If 4 of them are teaching error, we can tend to think that the ones that are teaching error are lost, or will eventually become lost. I don't mean in that moment, but hopefully everybody knows what I mean. And so we have to disengage those 2 concepts. Okay, anyone else? You know? Okay. Did you have a point? Curtis. Anyone else? Melania? One second. Good. Melania.
Okay. I'm just trying to contemplate what you're explaining. Oh, you want me to speak up?
Just for in the room.
Oh, okay.
Just for the room.
Okay. So I'm saying I'm just trying to contemplate what you're explaining. And I don't know if I got it right. That, for example, 5 of the teachers have taught different things about the same waymark. So let's say 4 of them are wrong and 1 is teaching the correct one. We tend to think that those 4 are lost, or eventually they'll get lost. So my question there would be, is it because they are lost or eventually getting lost? or we are still studying. Like you can't pinpoint and say they are lost because they are studying something.
Is that your question? Or-
Yeah, yeah. For me, it's like a process of trying to understand something.
So I think where the movement should be headed, where your thinking should be headed, now I want to reiterate, this isn't new, but maybe we all haven't arrived at the same place yet. But when we talk about a movement of success, that is a prophetic issue. That we understand prophecy correctly. That we identify truth and error. Right and wrong. And many of us haven't been able to take that model and separate it from the personal experience that we're all having. And we looking at teachers and teachers looking at themselves, I think as I review the past, both are guilty of this. And that this is, as you have suggested, and Blessing, that if someone isn't teaching something that is correct, we should not be looking at that person as being saved or lost. And as Blessing already used this term from Matthew 13, we shouldn't be looking at them as wheat and tares. The whole issue of wheat and tares has been handled in a very bad way. I shouldn't say that. I think it's been misunderstood. Maybe that's a fairer way of saying it. So when I'm asking a question about this Sunday law waymark being salvational, people might get to the place where they think I'm attacking 4 speakers. And that's not what the issue is. The issue is, what is the correct start date for this dispensation? And if you get that wrong, and it becomes a movement-wide phenomena that the movement has adopted a wrong position, then is that salvational? So for sure, we could say that speaker 1, 2, 3, and 4 are teaching something that's wrong. But that's not addressing the individual teacher themselves. Any Comments? Curtis.
In Canada, when this question was asked, I suspect that the question was framed around an individual salvation. I might be wrong on that. And so I'll admit that my thinking in that being the question and the answer that was received, I was one of the people that said, no, it's not salvational. Because, and I don't know if this is what Blessing said, so correct me if I'm wrong. In the past, we've taught, or we've made the encouragement or said, just stay on the ship. Under the premise that your salvation is predicated on whether the ship gets to its destination safely.
Before you move on, is that an old understanding or a new understanding?
When you say old, at what point?
One, two, or three?
I'm not sure. I remember it being emphasized in 2 and then de-emphasized.
Got to 2?
So at the beginning of 2, I remember it being emphasized, but towards the end of 2, it being de-emphasized. So I can't remember what it was in 1. My memory is...
When you said stay on the boat at the beginning of 2 and it's all about the individual at the end of number 2, was that because Elder Tess had changed her position, or is it because at the beginning it was someone else?
I suspect it was someone else at the beginning. I think it was because of someone else at the beginning of 2.
So I have to put Jeff there then.
Okay.
Which means number 1.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to summarize what Cody said. Elder Jeff, in dispensation 1 that's on the board, taught that if you stay on the boat, you're okay. And the nature of the studies that Elder Tess gave, which I'm going to say individual righteousness by faith, led us away from that. Carry on.
Yeah, so I guess the answer to the question in Canada depends on what framework the question is being asked. And my suspicion is that the question, no, and the respondents were answering under, I'll just say, dispensation 2 thinking. So when we discuss this today, I want to know what answer we arrive to for both of those questions.
Okay, so I don't want to delve too much into this movement and individual tension that there is. So I'm just going to confine my question to you. No one else is allowed to respond. Because we'll end up having a big discussion about it. You have a message on the Sunday law, Waymark 1. You're teaching that mistakenly. So you're wrong. So you're not lost just because you're teaching error. So we get to a place and we say that Aaron is teaching the truth. So we all gravitate to Aaron except you. And Manjit says, I'm going to stick with Curtis. So are you and Manjit in the boat? In a year's time? Well, we've shown you, as we're blue in the face, showing you that you're wrong. Do you think you're both in the boat?
I think it would depend on what my response to that situation of the movement going in a specific direction would be. So if I take the position that, okay, they're all wrong and Manjit and I, let's start up our own organization or break apart or leave them to do our own thing. I think we're not in the boat. As opposed to me going along for a year's time trying to convince you, but believing that the movement will get sorted out. I have trust that the movement will get sorted out. I trust that the movement will get sorted out. And so I stick along. And so I stick along until either I'm convinced or I convince everyone else.
Okay, so there's Manjit. He's just following you blindly. Say it's you against me and the other teachers. You don't agree? You miss all the waymarks because you don't agree with them. The ones that are coming. But you still attend all the meetings. And you're just a thorn in our side. Are you still on the boat and okay? Because we're not persuaded you. And I'll say this, in your heart, you don't have any conscious evil. You're really persuaded.
I guess if we were to talk about a point where that time lapses, whether you're going to call that formalization or close of probation,
we get to the close of probation, and the world blows up. So you can see that the world's blown up.
yeah. I don't know.
Okay, so I did say, everybody got the question? I said no one's going to participate. Just going to ask one person, one thing. Is he still in the boat? This is anonymous. In that scenario, is he still in the boat? Close probation, the world's blown up. You can see that one. Okay, so we still think he's still in the boat. Me and someone else thinks he's in the boat. Some of us think he's not. So this may seem semi-amusing, a semi-moot point. I want to stress, I don't think this is new. But what's confronting us now is the relationship between external events and their salvific properties and our personal walk or interaction with the movement. And each of us are required to handle those two concepts for ourselves. But we're also duty bound to be responsible for one another. So I'm responsible for handling those prophetic events for sure. With respect to how they're managed at a movement-wide level. But individually, you're all responsible of how you look at your neighbor. And that's been a big problem in the movement with respect to this issue. And so these questions are not insignificant or minor. And I suspect it will take people some time to walk back their bad thinking. A couple of years ago, I think I got up and said, just teach. It doesn't matter if you teach something that's wrong or error. Several people came back to me, and I don't know how they came to the conclusion based upon what I said. They said, are you saying it doesn't matter if you teach error anymore? And I couldn't understand that. How someone would think that it's okay to teach error. It doesn't make a difference. Of course, no one should be teaching error. But if you do, if you're teaching something that's not correct, it's not salvational at an individual, personal level to that teacher. Unless you start behaving in a way that is clearly wrong. And the clearly wrong would be that you're beginning to disengage from movement activities, if I can put it that way. And even that gets problematic, because when we start talking about markers for being in the movement, how do you know if someone's in the movement or not? What marker are you not allowed to use? Have a go, besides Curtis. Emma, what marker are you not allowed to use when determining if someone's in the movement or out the movement?
I think I'm thinking several things.
I'll just say no to each one of them.
Okay. What they're teaching.
Go ahead.
What they're teaching.
No, not that.
Whether they follow the health message.
No. The ones you, I don't know if you understood, if I framed the question correctly. I said, what can you not use? And you said you can't use food and you can't use teaching.
Okay.
We've already done the teaching one.
I don't think I understand the question then.
Okay. Just shout out, Curtis. Attendance.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I think I thought the wrong way around.
Attendance is the most obvious marker of whether you're not in the movement or not in the movement in the minds of people. And that one that seems so obvious cannot be used as a marker. Especially when you quiz the person and they give excuses. That don't seem reasonable to you. So even how you would conceptualize what being in the boat actually would mean becomes problematic. Natalie, do you want to make a comment? You forgot. Okay, sorry. Anyone? Go speak a bit louder. It's not that. It's louder for me. Forget that.
I wanted to go back to Curtis's model.
Which is up or down?
That one, the one that's there. And I was trying to understand his answer to your question.
What's my question?
The question, why people thought that the waymarks or the dispensational, okay, the waymark is not salvational. And I didn't understand what he was explaining there and how that answers the question.
So I'll have a go at answering. At the beginning of this, the life of the movement, when Elder Jeff and associates were teaching, all they were focused on was external events. And they would say things like, you're not allowed to look at the behavior of the teacher. All you can look at is what they're teaching. Now, we were learning many things in number 1. But I'm pretty sure that everybody, I mean, literally everybody, was teaching exactly the same thing. Now, there would come times where some new information would come and there'd be a learning curve. But there was only one message. And you're not allowed to look at people's moral behavior when it comes to what you can only look at their teaching, not their individual personal morality. And when we start talking about the Sunday law, and now we're very focused upon what's happening in the world, and the messages that are being taught by 5 speakers, they're all speaking about external events. Maybe we could say politics. And for Curtis, number 3 looked very similar to number 1. When Elder Tess came on the scene, the focus of our attention seemed to change, seemed to redirect us to our personal, individual behavior. Our morality. Whether or not we were sexist or racist or homophobic. So it seemed that she took us through a learning curve about our individual lives. And by the time you get to the end of that, understanding her perspective might be the following. If you're sexist, you're going to be lost. If you don't understand the role of the vice president or the Supreme Court, but you understand about equality, you would be okay. And he said that's why he thinks if you don't know which date is correct at the Sunday law, it can't be salvational. Because all 5 speakers, all of you, believe and practice equality. So if you get a date wrong, is it a big deal? I think that's what he was trying to show. And in that, trying to show why that conclusion ends up being wrong. Why these are salvational matters. Okay, we're out of time. We'll close and we'll restart at what time? We're going to restart in 10 minutes on the hour. It's 9 minutes now. Let's close with prayer. Holy God, we thank you for your goodness and mercy. We ask and pray that you would guide, bless and direct us. When it comes to the subject of salvation, may each of us understand and have assurance for our own salvation. When it comes to the understanding of what this movement believes, may all of us have clarity on that. In Jesus' name, amen.